We're live, and it's Saturday evening. I am looking something up real quick, shortly. Um, there we go. Bringing, hard to say, bringing my blog up. It's a lot of B's in a row for me to get out of my mouth at once. And so, yeah, Saturday night, Easter Saturday. Is Easter Saturday a thing? Um, if not, it's the day before Easter. I mentioned before in today's earlier live session they that I find Easter to be a very meaningful Christian holiday. That I don't consider myself a Christian, although I went to Catholic school, I was raised a Catholic. Um, I have a deep affinity for the Christian spiritual mystics, as well as mystics across the board from every philosophy, every religion. Truth is truth, no matter where you find it. So, just because I no longer consider myself to be a Christian doesn't mean that I don't value Christianity in and of itself. More particularly, I value and love the actual teachings of Jesus, which I believe are on par with the teachings of Buddha, the teachings found in the Bhagavad Gita. But you got to go to the message. You got to go to the messenger himself to truly, truly get that. Otherwise, you're hearing interpretations, you're hearing opinions, you're hearing beliefs based upon the teachings of Jesus and not the teachings of Jesus himself. And that's when we run into trouble. So, for those who are practicing Christians, happy Easter, a day early. Again, it's a beautiful holiday. Um, the symbolism of the resurrection is absolutely beautiful. I love how the A Course in Miracles puts it, that the true lesson, or the only lesson of the cross, is that we can all survive our own crucifixion, and that life will certainly try to crucify us. I think most or many have experienced that sort of thing, not on the level of Jesus, obviously, but some have. When you think of some of the horrors that have been placed upon others through history. So I'm going through my blog, and I'm looking for what I'm going to read for tonight. Um, let's see. What I've decided to do, usually I come here and I have something in mind that I'm going to read. Something calls to me or something comes up in a Facebook memory and I think, yep, that's what I'm going to read. But lately, I'm feeling more called towards a spontaneity in the live sessions in a lot of different ways. To just scroll down through my blog, whatever catches my eye, I'll read. Sometimes that's a mistake. It doesn't flow so well. Sometimes it works out pretty well. As well, maybe reading more than one or breaking it up. To not have a set pattern in how we do the live sessions. Just keep it open and keep it as fresh as possible and not be afraid to stumble around some things. Not be afraid to allow silence to fall upon the channel. That I don't have to fill every single space with words. There's no pressure, even though I'm live on YouTube. No matter if anyone comes, no matter if quite a few people come, just be natural. Sometimes being natural means you fumble with words, you stumble around, you're a little awkward, you have some pauses and silence. in between. I sort of think of it as, you know what, I've mentioned it quite a bit as being an art form. One, every conversation is an art form. Every conversation is a work in progress as you're going through it. The good thing is when it's a conversation with face to face with someone, you have someone to feed off of. So you're weaving through each other's thoughts and words, as well as the silence that you both present each other. You don't get that with the live sessions. So you sort of have to improvise a bit. So YouTube live sessions in and of themselves are an art form. And if you want to see some great YouTube artists, go visit the Jay Jordan. Go visit, I'm going to talk specifically about those in a live session. Go visit Noble, Noble Scrolling Traveler. Go visit Smitty, Smitty Deuces 187. These guys are true artists. And then in general, YouTube artists, you got Reverend Terminator, and you have our friend Destiny Forever Walks PhD. My friend Elise is here. Elise is my old friend. I think we figured it out a couple days ago. Over 20 years, 22 years, somewhere around there. It's a long time in this day and age. And I always appreciate when she shows up here. I always appreciate when she shows up in my daily life. And she has a tendency to show up in my daily life when I need a friend the most. Those are the kinds that you value. Those are the kinds that you hold on to. Elise says I will go check them out. I enjoy checking out some of the other chat member channels. They are awesome. They are awesome. And you know, as I said, it's all art. And if it's an art form, which I truly believe it is, then it has to be abstract, meaning you don't actually know where it's going to go. I don't even have any type of outcome in mind other than we're going to weave through this together. Whoever shows up, whoever doesn't show up. I've had hour-long conversations on the live streams completely by myself, and that's okay. It's interesting. I get to feel things out, see how they go, and let's see. Elise says, yes, 22 years, my beloved friend. Thank you. And she says, I agree. I am looking forward to what you do, Elise. I've mentioned that several times. Not giving anything away. I don't want to put anything out there that isn't mine to put out. But I do want to say that I've always considered you a creative force. So I'm just looking forward to you unleashing that force and seeing where it goes. I mean, I know you have other outlets that you work with, but for one, it would just be awesome to see you on YouTube, to have you here that I'm able to support, that I can be active on, that I can share, that I can go on a channel and see, you know what I mean? Experience what you're doing in the moment would be awesome. In your time. I always, everyone has a different process, a way to go about it. I dive in and make a complete mess of it. sometimes it stays a mess. I sort of think my YouTube channel is a mess. Um, very little is planned. It pivots, it changes. Sometimes I get people show up in the chat and will say, "What are you doing?" Someone dropped in when I was talking to myself and said, "There's no one here." And I was like, "I absolutely know for sure that no one's here, except for you now. This whole conversation was just waiting for you to show up." Um, it's just nice to keep everything in that um, everything spontaneously shows up exactly when it's supposed to show up. That doesn't mean I like it. That doesn't mean that everything is this, perfect synchronistic moment that's going to be wonderful. Sometimes, often, it is. But sometimes often, life gives us a bump. That's life. It's how we navigate. And you take it all in stride. Equanimity. The path of yoga is one of equanimity. And equanimity doesn't mean you're just riding the highs. You're going all the way through life. You're neck deep, your eyebrow deep in life. Elise says, yes, I'm looking forward to it as well. So, hey, a shout out to my friend Destiny Forever Walks PhD, who every time she's here will say, please hit the like button and share out. So I always forget, and she never, ever forgets. Pretty awesome. So in her honor, please hit the like button. And if you're of a mind to, share out the video. You don't need to, but if you have a mind to, I do appreciate you hitting those like buttons. Though. So here's the thing. I know I wrote about equanimity not too long ago. I could search for it, but I'm not. What I'm going to do is read what comes up here. Elise says, Destiny is a great inspiration. In her honor, I will hit the like button. That's awesome. And she is. She really is. Considered an auspicious occasion when I came across her channel and just left a comment how much I appreciated seeing what she was doing. You can't watch her dance in the treadmill and not just come away filled with the same joy that she puts out there. So I'm going to read, this is from April 26, 2023. So almost, not quite a year. And it's called Ocean's Breath. The reason I'll read this is because then maybe we can, I might read another one. We'll scroll through. But we can also talk about breath work. We can talk about pranayama. Pranayama being now I'm having a bit of a brain freeze. Is it the third or fourth limb of yoga? I believe it's the third, with the fourth being asanas, which are the physical postures. Breath work is vital. If the only practice that you take from the 8 limbs of yoga, one, take more than one, but breath work can change your life. It can change your physical health. It can change your physiological state in the space of 5 minutes. Just a little bit of practice that has very little effort to it. It can change your emotional state. Literally takes you from the sympathetic nervous state, which is our fight and flight, which we enter in so easily nowadays, It used to be we hit that fight or flight button when we had a fight or we had to flee, when there was a saber-toothed tiger or when there was a woolly mammoth that needed to be taken care of. Being a vegan, I'd like to think that I came from a long strand of DNA veganesque and that we never hunted the woolly mammoth. The things I like to think have nothing to do with reality. So you guys can humor me with that. And then you have the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. This was what helps us go to sleep at night. This is what keeps us calm. This is what keeps us smiling when our boss is yelling at us. Or the dog is barking, neighbor's dog is barking, or the kids are yelling, whatever. When we need to get back into that parasympathetic state, our breath can take us there in an instant. And if we need to get back up to that fight or flight, our breath can take us there too. The next time you're in that state, next time you're caught in a traffic jam and you feel that edginess, or someone bumps into you, or someone is rude, simply observe your breath and see what it's doing. Don't do anything else. And then later on, we'll talk about how to take that breath that you're experiencing it and change it. And as you change that, you change the entire experience itself. It is a marvel, and it is one of the things that modern science, medical science, has explored quite deeply and speak highly of. Harvard has done several studies, as well as studying, of course, meditation, which is another thing. Here's a secret. Here's a secret I shouldn't tell you as a meditation teacher. If sitting in meditation is difficult for you, you can get 90%. Some say all. I'm going to go with 90% because I want to reserve that 10% to actually teach you guys meditation. Meditation, or you can get 90% of the benefits of meditation doing 3 minutes of breath work a couple times a day. So we're talking 10 minutes of active breathing, different styles, and getting those benefits of sitting twice a day, 20 minutes or 30 minutes of meditation. Now, I absolutely love meditation. I love breath work too. I'm a breath work coach. I'm a meditation teacher. I can't even say if I had to pick, because I wouldn't pick. The whole path of yoga is lined up, so you do it all. You have the foundation where you're practicing the ethical restraints and the personal observances. Some call them the don'ts and the do's. Don't do this, but do this. You got 5 of each. But really, the ethical, they're not so much don'ts. They're more suggestions. They're not commandments. They're not saying, God says don't do this. They're saying, hey, if you want this positive effect in your life, you might not want to do this. If you want the first one, ahimsa, non-harm, if you want peace in your life and you go around harming others, you're not going to get peace. Here's our suggestion. Practice peace, and peace grows. So I much prefer suggestions over commandments, but I've always had an issue with authority. Elise says, I've used breathwork to calm me before reacting. And the more you practice it on a regular basis, the more it's deeply ingrained. So the foundation of the breathwork is laid, and then your life flows from those practices. How I was taught, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening practice to help you go to sleep, and therapeutically as needed. Our friend Squirrel Sniper is here. Greeting Eric in chat. Hello, my friend. How are you? And Elise is saying hi to Squirrel Sniper. And Let's see, a little bit of chat going on. So this is called ocean breath. In Sanskrit, ocean breath is ujjayi breathing, which translates to victorious breath, and sort of nicknamed ocean's breath because you're literally making the sound of the ocean by constricting the throat just a little bit as you breathe, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. 98% of all the pranayama that you'll probably do is going to be nasal breathing. If you look at my burpee sessions, nowadays they're all done nasal breathing, which wasn't easy to get to the point where I could do really hard sessions just nasal breathing. So let's read about ocean's breath, and then I might demonstrate it if you guys want. And feel free to ask any questions, of course. And then maybe, we'll stroll down and we'll read some more. Ocean breath. It's the foundation breath to my practice. Ujjayi, victorious, the ocean breath. And I use it through my sun salutation flow and other asanas, as well as an underlying breath to certain pranayama techniques where it lends itself to greater calm and focus. This is the sound of the ocean, a slight constriction to the back of the throat. Through inhale and its release that reminds me of the tide during the quiet of the night, a low hum of waves arriving from their hidden depth and then once more pulled back from the shore. With this breath, I breathe as the ocean. This isn't surprising as we are traced back to deep ancient waters, our first ancestors being a microscopic species known as Sacrotitis. I probably pronounced that wrong. A common origin to many other animals as well, and from this humble start, we evolved to more complex forms, eventually wandering far from our original home. Yet the ocean remains within us, our blood similar to its makeup, altered now by millions of years of surviving on land, but still tidal in its very essence. An ocean's breath is our return. Pranayama is the practice of breathing with intent and reason, cultivating life force for the benefit of energy, calm, and clarity. Each technique has a certain value to its measure, a purpose that offers us a means of channeling the subtle force that animates every life form. Breath is life, an easy equation without doubt, and yet we take this gift for granted. Pranayama calls for us to appreciate what's given, drawing air in grateful fashion, and released once more to sky. We are breathing prana, life, constantly, exclusively, a chemical process that sustains us through interaction with plants that thrive on our exhalation, and in return, cleanse the air for the breath that we take. Ujjayi reminds us of this connection. It's the foundation of my practice, breathing as an ocean. So it was a little bit of a rough reading. I have not read this or looked at it since April 26, 2023. And I never edit my stuff. When I'm done writing, I'm done writing. I share it, I put it out there. The only time I ever think of it is again if someone stumbles across it and they leave a comment, or they send me a message and say, hey man, you really need to edit your stuff. And I say, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to, but I appreciate the input. So Ujjayi breath, it's the ocean breath. It's nothing fancy. You're making a ha sound by constricting the throat, breathing through your nose. When you fog up the bathroom mirror, I know it looks weird. It looks weird me doing it on camera, but that's the sound you're going to make. But you're going to close your mouth and just do it with your nose. Same with the exhale. Don't know if you guys can hear that. Let me know in the comments if you guys can actually hear that sound. So I'm making the ha sound. I'll do the exhale first. As if I'm fogging up the mirror. That's the easy part. A little more difficult to do the ha sound um, as you inhale. It's almost like a slight snore, a purposeful snore. Builder the Strong says, yep, I appreciate that, my friend. Um, this is an amazing breath. You don't have to do anything fancy with it. So I'm going to give a breathing pattern. 4x4 breathing. Breathing in for the count of 4. Exhaling for the count of 4. Nasally. And Yoga Body, where I got certified to be a breath coach. Now I became a pranayama teacher through Yoga Body, Yoga Spear. Yoga Body, to me, the reason I chose them at first, or to get my first breathwork certification, because I thought it was genius the way they categorize these breathing. Because you got lots of people putting out breathwork, lots of people doing different types of breathing techniques. But what Lucas, the founder of Yoga Body, who's a 20 plus year yoga teacher, he put them into categories that you use for specific purposes. You don't want to do breath of fire, which is a very strong breath where you are doing sharp inhalations and a passive exhalation, but it's a vigorous breath that gives you energy, wakes you up. You don't want to do that before you go to bed. Or if you're trying to calm down, or maybe before you meditate. Although in the morning, that is my morning practice before I meditate, because I want to get this sleep out of my mind. I don't want to fall asleep when I'm meditating, although it's perfectly okay if you do fall asleep when you're meditating. That's a different subject. So the categories. You have coffee breathing. Coffee, it wakes you up. Caffeine, strong energy. The breath itself doesn't have anything to do with coffee, but it's meant to wake you up. It's meant to invigorate. It puts you in that sympathetic nervous state, fight or flight. Just a bit, not too much, just as much as we need it to do. And then we have water category. Water's neutral. Almost everything mixes with water. This is a breath you want to do midday if you need a bit of a pickup, or if you're under a lot of stress, because it covers both. It can pick you up just a little bit. And if you're having a bad day and you need a boost, or if you're in a traffic jam, feeling a little tense, you can use it. And then you have whiskey breathing. As an ex-drinker, you know, I could struggle with that term, but I don't, because it fits the purpose. It helps you relax. It prepares, it puts you in that parasympathetic nervous state, that rests and digests, and gets you ready for bed. When I'm done talking here, live, I'm a little ramped up because I've been putting things out there. So I will do my sleep hygiene protocol, which involves a breath. A lot of it is based upon that 4x4, but I'll lengthen the exhalation. Lengthening the exhalation brings the heart rate down, puts us into that parasympathetic state. There's a few other tweaks, but let's start with 4x4, and we'll do it with the Ujjayi breathing. I do 10 rounds. You can do more, but again, it's not like the meditation practice where you're investing 20 minutes or 30 minutes. 10 rounds gets the job done. If you feel you need more, there's no reason why you can't do more. Builder the Strong says caffeine stimulus. Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Builder the Strong says, would the stimulation of the heart make you breathe differently? Yes, it would. It would put you in the sympathetic nervous state, and your breath would be a little more shallow, a little more rapid. You would breathe higher in the chest and not so much from the belly. As well, you might find that you are breathing through the mouth. So If you want to lessen that stimulation, then all you have to do, focus on breathing through the nose. Don't make any drastic changes. Just bring that focus to the nasal breathing and then fill the belly and watch the belly fall. You can even put your hands on your lower belly to make sure that you're getting all the way down there. A simple breath is hand on the belly, hand on the chest. The chest should move very little. It's the belly that should be moving. It should be filling with air and it should be falling. So I'm going to do 4x4, and then we're going to add just 1 or 2 times. And then I'm going to add the Ujjayi, the victorious breath. When I was suffering major anxiety during the pandemic, when I was a caregiver for my 90-plus-year-old father with congestive heart failure, trying to keep him safe, trying to keep people away from him who weren't being as careful as they should have been. As well as I lost my home business, a lot of stuff. It was a bad time. And I didn't recognize that I was suffering anxiety because I taught taking care of stress. I taught meditation, yoga. I had been meditating for 30 years. How could I be suffering the effects of stress? Said my mind. And my body said, this is stress. You're messed up. I couldn't sleep. Everything was a mess. My breathing was out of whack. So I had to take some drastic considerations to change things around, and I did, and things have gotten considerably better. Just using the Ujjayi breathing, even if I'm not doing a particular breath count, just using the Ujjayi breathing is a game changer. Even now, if I have a hard time, if I wake up, I have a little bit of a hard time going back to sleep, I will just practice that Ujjayi breathing. So let's start with the 4x4. Very easy. I'm breathing through my nose, and I'm just going to breathe in from my belly for a count of 4. Couple things to notice. 4 count. Doesn't have to be 4 seconds. So the count is up to you. Just try to make it even. 4, 4 out. And there's a uncounted pause at the top. You're not really holding your breath. There's just a pause. It's a beat. And as you exhale, that external exhalation, or that external breath hold at the end, it's just a beat. So it literally makes it, even though you count it's for 4, it actually makes it 5. 5 and 5, or 5.5 and 5.5, is considered the perfect breath. Lots and lots of research has been done on that breathing pattern of 5 in, or 5.5 in, 5.5 out. It's just a Google away, and maybe we'll do a Google search on it. It also has been shown when you're doing work like with rosary beads or repeating japa. Japa is like mantra repetition out loud. It pretty much comes to the space of 5 and 5, or 5.5 and 5.5. So that's why doing that kind of rosary bead, saying the Hail Mary, saying the Our Father, or working with the japa beads, repeating like Om Namah Shivaya with your breath, it's considered the perfect breath. It gets you right where you need to be. So I don't know if you heard my breathing pattern as I did it. I didn't engage in a real heavy Ujjayi breathing, but out of habit, I just fell into it. It doesn't have to be how loud you can make it. If you ever do a yoga class, you'll see people doing it really loud as if it is a yogic breathing competition. There's no need to do that at all. Let me get caught up in the comments. Builder the Strong, which is an awesome channel name, username, by the way, says that it's very good observation. Yeah, the breath reveals everything. And, if you're really observant, you can see it in other people as well. You can see if they're nervous by their breathing pattern, and you can take steps to help calm them down. You can actually mirror what they are doing with their breath, and then you reach that synchronicity between you, a resonance of breath, and then you start lowering your breath, and they find that they start lowering their breath as well. Builder Strong says stress can be our friend if we have a proper relationship. Awesome. Absolutely right. Everything grows from stress. Everything. Oceans, mountains, continents, people. When we, part of my sleep hygiene is getting first sunlight to the eyes as early as possible. And for me, it's as the sun's right before the sun's coming up, because it creates stress hormones in just the right amount that we need to face the day. And the stress hormone, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, and they're in just the right amount that we need to navigate the day. The amazing thing is, and the reason why it's part of sleep hygiene, as those hormones die off through the course of the day, their raw material is used by the body to produce melatonin and serotonin, which is obviously the relaxation and sleep hormones. So without the stress hormones at the beginning of the day, we don't have the proper sleep hormones at the end of the day. The circadian rhythm, we're so out of touch with the circadian rhythm. Elise says, well, let's see. Builder the Strong says, thank you. The name has lore too. Yeah, I bet. A name like that doesn't come on a whim, I would imagine. It's insightful and comes from I would guess, comes from a very deep place. And Elise says, well, interesting. And Why Nobody Like Me says, you should have more viewers, bro. Thanks, I appreciate that. You know what? It'll grow. And I have the viewers that count right now. And then Why Nobody Like Me says, I just want to make you more popular. I appreciate that. Thanks. And hitting the like button is really helpful, valuable. So little things like that. I do the same thing. I go on other people's channels and try to get them some watch hours. I hit the like button. I share them out. Man, there's so many small channels that offer so much valuable information, as well as just being fun and a welcoming place to have a conversation. These are the people that are doing the real work, that foundation, just healing the world, making people feel better. So now I'm going to add in that Ujjayi breath with a little more focus. And again, we're making that ha, like a internal snore, just using our nose. So I'm just do a couple reps, breathing in for 4, breathing out for 4. Here we go. Awesome breath. And you don't have to do it with the 4 count. If you're lying in bed, sometimes just doing 10 Ujjayi breaths alone can put you right back to sleep. It's very relaxing. Hey, my friend Eric Lapointe is here. Camping will reset that wonderful sleep pattern. Oh yeah, being out in nature and being immersed in nature 24/7, like you're camping, just puts you right in that circadian rhythm, especially if you do it for more than a night. Because that first night sometimes can be kind of rough, and spend the day hiking or you spend the day fishing or whatever, and you fall right into that pattern. When you hit the bed, as the sun's going down, or after it's been down for just a little bit, you just find you're ready naturally to go to sleep. Builder says, do we breathe with high intensity or moderate? Uh, don't focus on it. Don't focus on intensity or even moderating the breath. Just breathe in nice and easy for count of 4. No strain, no pressure, and you breathe out nice and easy for count of 4. 4 is a good place to start. The Ujjayi breath also serves to help regulate the breathing. It's like when you have a garden hose and you turn the sprocket on and the water just comes out. It's hard to control. It's just going to come out. If you put that, what are they called? The controller, the handle thing. I know technically it's not called a handle thing. If you put that on the hose, you have control. That's what Ujjayi breathing does. So it makes it easier to control that count of 4. And this is going to be important as we begin to lengthen the breath. So if you really want to go into the parasympathetic state, that rest and digest state, we increase the exhalation. So we keep the breathing in for 4, sprout. Thank you. Appreciate that. We breathe in for 4. Now we're going to breathe out for 8. We're doubling the length of the exhalation. This is a big part of my sleep hygiene. Doing this breath. I add a little twist to it, and I'll show you after we do 1 or 2 of these. So using the Ujjayi breath, I breathe in for a count of 4. Breathe out for a count of 8. 10 rounds. A round is inhalation, exhalation. There's that silent pause, uncounted, at the top and at the bottom. So technically, it's just a little bit longer, but we're going by count, not by seconds. The other little twist, the breathing from the left side is an indication of that you are in the parasympathetic. One way to tell if you are a little more stressed or a little more relaxed, you can just simply do the finger test. Which side do you feel is more dominant? Right side corresponds to the sympathetic, the fight or flight. Doesn't mean that you're fully engaged in fight or flight. It just means, and everyone's goes back and forth throughout the day. Like right now, I'm slightly more in the sympathetic because I'm engaged, I'm talking, I'm active. There's some positive stress going on. And as Builder the Strong said, stress handled correctly isn't a bad thing at all. So you want a little bit of stress when you're having a great conversation with friends. Remember, stress doesn't mean bad. It just means stress. Left side dominant corresponds to our parasympathetic nervous state, rest and digest. So what we're going to do, I'm going to breathe in for a count of 4, and then I'm going to use this is called the Vishnu Mudra, or the Pranayama Mudra. Technically, these fingers stay up. These fingers are pulled back. You don't have to do it. You can put your index, you can put your thumb. Just from training, from years of doing breath work, it naturally works for me. If your fingers don't stay here, don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. Hey, Goldie is here. Hi there, lovely people. Hello, my friend. How are you? So I'm going to breathe in for a count of 4, and then I'm going to seal off the right side and exhale for a count of 8. Everything's done very gently. Nothing is overly stressed. If you find that 8 is a little too much, go for 6. It's still lengthening the exhalation, so you still get a lot of the effects. So I'm going to breathe in for a count of 4, using the Ujjayi breath. Remember the Ujjayi breath, making that ha sound, but with my mouth shut. Ten rounds. Very relaxing. And again, that's a whiskey category. Relaxing, parasympathetic breath. Others would be box breathing, breathing in for a count of 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, holding for 4. What we're doing is we're slowing the breathing pattern down. When you do it that way, you're taking about 4 breaths per minute. I think the average person, I don't remember the actual number, the average person will take like 12 to 15 or more breaths per minute, which isn't great. It keeps us a little more hyped up than we should be. As you lower that down, as you get, they say the perfect breath is about 5 to 6 per minute, some even 4. Advanced yogis can pretty much cease their breath for extended periods of time. Absolutely amazing. So that's Ocean's Breath with a very easy 4x4. Maybe in a afternoon session, I'll demonstrate the morning breath, breath of fire. You don't want to do it now because I go to bed. I'm going to be going to bed after this conversation, so in like 10 minutes or so. So I don't want to do something that picks me up because then I got to work to bring myself down. Goldie says, chilling after work. Sounds good. I hope you have a good Easter, my friend. And my friend Noble Scrolling Traveler, I was just talking about you. Beginning of the conversation. Says Yogi, appreciate you being here. Always good seeing you, brother. Always good seeing you. What I was mentioning, the normal good stuff. That, you know, there are some channels that are doing good stuff, putting out the good vibrations. And if you can support them, all the better. All the better. I try to get to the channels that are meaningful for me and exploring all of them. I mentioned before, like with Smitty, I easily could have dismissed a gamer's channel because I'm not a gamer. And boy, would I have missed out. Those are good guys. And they have, it's no small thing to have a joy in what you're doing because it's contagious. All of it's contagious. If you got someone bitching and moaning on their channel on the state of the world, it's going to, and you spend time there, it's going to have an effect on you. You're going to come away with a little bit of a dark view of the world, even in spite of your best intention. You just can't help it. You fall in sync with that negativity. You go to Noble's channel, you're going to be lifted up. You go to Destiny's channel, you're going to be lifted up. You go to Smitty's channel, you're going to be lifting up. I hope that I can present the same thing. I'm not as exuberant as some people. I'm not as exuberant as Noble. Because, man, I get the feeling that he has unlimited energy. He is drawing in the energy of the spheres, the energy of the cosmos, channeled down, animating him. Elise says, welcome all. I appreciate that welcome. And Noble says, I appreciate always telling people to check out your awesome content. you know what? And I show up and I catch that, and I really appreciate that so much. The nature stuff, exercise, and love sessions are amazing. I've mentioned before, I've fallen in love with doing the nature shorts. It's like a haiku, and it's absolutely amazing that that unique perspective for 30 seconds or a minute, being in nature and capturing that. No one else in the entire universe is ever going to have that experience of that moment. It's singular. And I get to be there, that auspicious occasion. And if I can capture just a bit and share it, then everyone is uplifted by nature. Nature is the great healer. Let's see. Elise says, you are absolutely presenting the same thing. Thank you. Noah says, energy buddy, am I? And a Yoda voice. Yeah, you certainly are. Goldie says, I'm sorry, I'm not into yoga at all. I wonder. Because I hear that from people, sometimes, often. But if they, Goldie says, I actually avoid it for miles. If they knew the actuality of yoga, if they knew what yoga really, really, really was, and I'm not saying that you don't, so I could be mistaken. So please don't think I'm saying, that I know yoga and you don't. But most people think yoga and they think exercise. And it really isn't just exercise. It's a way of living. Goldie says, I am one of those crazy Christians. The two can go together very, very nicely. Yoga begins with the foundation of ethical practices. One is doing no harm, not stealing, not hoarding. So let's see. Oh, and I'm going to add in, there's absolutely nothing crazy about being a Christian. That's for sure. Christianity as a practice is absolutely beautiful. Goldie says that's just basic morality. Exactly. Yoga is basic morality. So what's to avoid about that? And then you do some breath work to improve your concentration, to improve your health. You do some asanas, some stretches to improve your body, your strength, your flexibility. And then you meditate. And we could substitute meditation for prayer, for contemplative practices. The first form of meditation that I practiced was called passage meditation, and I used the prayer of St. Francis. And the basic rule of meditation is you become what you meditate upon. So using the words of St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. And you repeat it silently, very slowly. The words drop within and begin to work. And you become an instrument of God's peace. And that's yoga, being an instrument of peace. Let's see. Noble said, can you tell us a little bit about your yoga instructor days? I was never actually a yoga instructor in a studio. I just taught people yoga. Small, little things. And mainly, when I say yoga, it's that full path of yoga where I would talk about the foundations of yoga. I would teach meditation. As a matter of fact, my good friend Elise was somebody that I taught meditation. Goldie says, I know, but in today's society, being a Christian is crazy. Sadly, it can be, but you know what? We have people like you who show the world otherwise, who show the world what it is like to be a Christian. A Christian is living the life of Christ, forgiving, offering love. Um, I always go back to, I went to a Catholic school. I was born and raised a Catholic. I always go back to Sermon of the Mount, the Beatitudes, actual instructions on how to live as a Christian. Right there, Jesus gives you those instructions. We don't need to stray. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. I take him at his word. So I look for the kingdom of heaven within, and then I try to live my life in accordance to that. That just because I personally left the Christian church doesn't mean that I left Christianity, and it certainly doesn't mean I left the teachings and the love of Jesus behind. I hold those values very, very strongly. So I would never, ever consider you a crazy, except for crazy in the best ways. My friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here. Hello, just Yogi in his basement, doing burpees in his basement. And everyone gets hello, as they do. Goldie says, I'm going to leave this playing as I'm going to sleep. Well, have a good night's sleep, and have a very, very great Easter, my friend. It's 7 minutes past midnight here. You definitely deserve a good night's sleep. So take care and sleep well, my friend. So yeah, Noble, I never wanted to be a yoga instructor in a studio. I knew a long time ago that I was going to teach yoga, but not a yoga teacher, if that makes sense. I was someone that was going to share my own path of yoga, and that was important to me. So once again, I'm going to mention that I am taking melatonin and ashwagandha, which is a Vedic herb that relaxes you. Melatonin helps me sleep. It's part of my sleep hygiene as well. I just don't want people to think that I'm on performance enhancing YouTube live aid. So, the path of yoga. No, but this is a brief breakdown for you. We have what's called the yamas, and then we have the niyamas. There's 5 of each of them. I'm going to bring them up real quick. If you aren't practicing the yamas and niyamas, you're not truly practicing yoga. You're just stretching. You're just breathing. Here we go. I want to get them in order. And I hardly get anything in order, so that's why I'm going to be technical. It begins with the yamas, which means ethical restraints. They're suggestions. They're not commandments. Let's see. Gordy says, thank you. You're welcome, my friend. And Elise says, not only did you teach me meditation, you also saved my life in many ways, including helping me lose 70 pounds. There were so many that can attest to how you have transformed their lives, including my kids. That is nice of you to say, my friend. Noble says, hello, treadmill queen. She certainly is. And Elise says, beautiful Destiny. You are awesome. Yep, she certainly is as well. So, yoga needs to start with the foundation. And they're called restraints because we restrain one behavior as a suggestion so the opposite grows. So you practice non-harming so that peace in your life grows. You become peaceful because you no longer harm. Truthfulness. You practice truthfulness. They're not saying that you should never lie or that lying is wrong, but if you want to live a life of truth, if you want to understand truth, then you practice truthfulness. non-stealing. And not just because, you know, morally stealing is wrong. You take all these to really, really deep levels. I talked about this with Elise the other day. Um, we can say non-stealing. Have you ever stolen someone's dignity with an offhand comment or by saying something mean about them? Have you ever stolen someone's well-being? So none of these are what they seem on the surface. You go really deep, and when you think you've gone deep, you go even deeper. How do I practice non-stealing? What am I stealing from others? What am I stealing from myself? Do I dim my own light? Do I put myself down? Do I not believe in my own inherent nobility? That's stealing from myself. Noble says, I love that we can see what you were seeing with the reflection of your glasses. I did not realize that. Someone told me to take my glasses off, and I asked them if that meant they were challenging me to a fight, and they said no. Let's see. Destiny says, thanks to the most amazing people on the YouTube streets. You made Just Yogi and his burpees day much better. You certainly did. Just seeing you here. Thanks for coming. Please hit the like button and share. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And then brahmacharya. This is a tough one for people. It is loosely translated as celibacy, but what it really means is being mindful of your energy. Are you putting out? Sexual energy is very potent. It's the most potent energy we have. Everything has come from that sexual energy, literally. Are you being mindful of how you use it? That's the important thing. It's not saying celibacy for the sake of celibacy or even practicing celibacy, but just being mindful of your energy. And then non-greed. Again, you take that really, really deep. What are you hoarding? Are you hoarding your creative thoughts, your creative energy? Are you hoarding clothes that you no longer need? Books that you might not read any longer? Calling myself out on that. And then we have the niyamas, which are personal practices, observances. Cleanliness, contentment, discipline, study of the self, and texts, ancient texts. Doesn't have to be yogic text, doesn't have to be Buddhist text, it could be Christian text. Any holy book that brings you inspiration. And study of the self means finding out who we truly are. And then the last one is surrender. That is the path of yoga, the foundation. Then we have the asanas, which are the practice of the poses, the physical aspect. Then we have pranayama, which I talked about quite a bit here tonight. And then pratyahara, which means withdrawal of the senses, yoga nidra, or some of the breath work that we do. We're simply taking some time during the day to not always be focusing outwards, to take some of that focus, turn it inwards, explore your inner world, explore the interior of noble scrolling traveler. That's where inspiration takes place. And then we have concentration, which is the beginning of meditation, and then absorption, where we're absorbed in that concentration, followed by samadhi, enlightenment or bliss. And that's the cumulative effect of meditation. That's yoga. The poses, one little tiny branch out of all of the 8. And it just fits right in. It's seamless. You can practice yoga. That's what I was sort of insinuating with Goldie. You can practice yoga without ever doing a posture. You can practice yoga. There's 4 main paths of yoga. And I talked about this with Destiny not too long ago. You have karma yoga, which is the yoga of selfless service. Karma people take to mean that it is retribution or revenge or injustice. Karma simply means motion. And karma yoga is the motion of serving other people, helping other people in whatever way that you can. And you do it not for the sake of anything other than serving them and serving God through them, whatever your concept of God is. Noble Scrolling Savage is a karma yogi because go to his channel, see what he's doing, serving other people. He's lifting everyone up. He's entertaining them. He's making them feel better. He's a karma yogi. Destiny Forever Walks is a karma yogi. She's bringing joy to the world. She is literally dancing to show other people this is how you do it. Elise is a karma yogi. She's always been in service. Elise was actually my boss at one time. And boy, did she have trouble telling me what to do. Let's see. Let me catch up here. Destiny says, thanks you for such kind words and inspiring. Blessings to you, my friend. Noble Scrolling Traveler. And Noble says, have you always shaved your head? You have a certain hairstyle you used to have? I used to have really, really long blonde hair. Literally long blonde hair. And I followed the Grateful Dead. And I was a hippie through and through. Although, honestly, I always considered myself more of a beatnik. I was a jazz hep cat. I was Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy. Definitely fit in more with the beat generation than the hippie generation. Although, generationally speaking, I am Generation X. I am right at that beginning of Generation X. I'm the beginning of the MTV generation. I shaved my head because still having really long blonde hair and a ponytail, I was pulling it back in a ponytail one day, and I heard myself thinking, you know what, if I only comb it over a little bit this way, and as soon as I heard that thought, comb over, I had to shave my head. I can't go with the comb over. But funny enough, during the COVID shutdown, I wanted to see if I could pull off the George Carlin balding hippie with a ponytail. So I grew my hair back. I grew some of my hair back. And the answer to the question is I cannot pull off the George Carlin aging hippie ponytail. So I shaved it again. If you go back to some of my very first burpee videos, you'll see me with the ponytail. Destiny says, blessings and love to you, beautiful soul. Thanks for the kind words and compliments. Likewise, Elise. Treadmill Queen is such a beautiful description for our friend. Destiny says, you all have the best people on these YouTube streets. Thanks for the love and support, and thanks for coming, everyone. I really appreciate it. This has been a fun session. Elise is sending out some laughing emojis because she remembers being my boss. I was very fortunate. I was a manager, an assistant manager in a retail store selling vitamin supplements, and I stepped away from being a manager, just wanted to be a regular, and yet they allowed me to keep my management pay, as well as being able to do management stuff if needed, as well as making my own hours. So I could come in and work for a couple hours and say, you know what, I think I'm done for the day, and go home. Never bothered Elise at all. But some of the other managers who I worked with did not like that at all. But when they complain, the district managers and regional managers have said, you leave Eric alone. He gets to do what Eric does. I don't know why I got so lucky, but I was very fortunate. Eric Lapointe says, yes, good stuff. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you sticking around. Always enjoy having you here. So, it is almost 6:30 here, and this is when I will start to begin my night hygiene. Electronics are turned off. Once the phone is turned off, I don't turn it back on. You want to get rid of that artificial light to the eyes. When the lights are out, I want it as dark as possible, which isn't always easy. Going to bed 7 o'clock after daylight savings time start. So I do my best. I do my breath work, which is that breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8, using a left nostril exhalation. I take that melatonin, and I might read, but I don't want to read anything that is stimulating. I don't want to read anything. I don't want to read a novel. I love fiction, but I don't want to have to keep turning the page. I don't want to be caught up in something. So I read usually a spiritual text, Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Dhammapada from Buddhism, some of my favorites, the Siva Sutras, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, things along those lines, because some of them can be pretty dry reading. Not all of them. Like the Bhagavad Gita is fascinating, but I've been reading it for so many years that it becomes more of a meditative experience, and I start to drift off. Most importantly, I take what I'm reading to sleep with me. Those thoughts, holy words. These are words, the Bhagavad Gita is 5,000 years old. Upanishads are even older. Some might say that or some have said, scholars, that the Upanishads are the oldest written, formalized, philosophical, religious, spiritual thoughts. That's what you absorb. That's what you take with you as you go to sleep. So it's a spiritual practice, turning your sleep into a spiritual practice. And it also helps you enter into that more rest and digest mode. So that's just a few of the things I do to prepare for bed so that I wake up and then I start the process over again. I do my breath work in the morning, cold water on my face, sit down in meditation, meditate for 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how it goes, or depending on a lot of things. And then I'm up and I do my yoga asana practice. I make a cup of coffee, 1 cup only in the morning. And then I write, usually for about an hour a day. And then I go out for a walk in nature. And as Eric Lapointe pointed out, being out in nature is just great for, he had mentioned camping, but all nature is great for resetting that circadian rhythm. And it's healing. One of the practices of yoga, or Vedic yoga, being out in nature as much as possible. I try to get in 2 walks and runs every day. I used to be a more hardcore runner. I was an ultra runner for 10 years. I've done over 100 ultras, from 50K to over 100 miles, 24-hour races. Now, I just like getting out there. Sometimes I'll walk a mile or 2, I'll run a mile or 2, I'll walk again, I'll run again. It's all spontaneous. Whatever happens, happens. Whatever my body says, I listen to. So, Elise says, I know how valuable you are as a person. Your volume superseded any title. You rock. Thank you. I was about to say I was a lousy manager, but I was a pretty good manager. I liked I like helping people. It's the whole thing about flipping retail around is, again, it's a way of being of service. But as Elise knows all too well, it can be a draining experience because you're constantly putting it out there, constantly putting your energy out there for 8 or more. And Elise was a manager, so we're talking 10-hour days or more. So, with all that said, I'm going to start the process now of unwinding for bed. I appreciate everyone being here. Elise and Eric and Destiny. I don't want to forget anyone. I said Noble because there's no way I could possibly ever forget Noble. I consider Noble Scrolling Traveler my spiritual brother. And Destiny Forever Walks is definitely a spiritual sister for sure. And at least I don't think there is a title for what at least is in my life. Too vital. Don't want to say important. Too vital. Appreciate Goldie being here. Goldie and I have a little difference in how we see yoga, but it's all good, and hopefully I think we came to a nice understanding. Border the Strong, appreciate you being here as well. Why Nobody Like Me was here. This was a good session, man. I had some great people. And our friend, Squirrel Sniper, always good to have him here. So, with that, everyone, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good Easter. I'll be back here tomorrow, but hey, focus on your family, focus on yourself, focus on the energy of that spiritual day. Even if you're not Christian, it has a deep energy to it. This is the resurrection. This is your time to be reborn, and you get to choose. You get to choose. How are you going to rise? You're going to rise in love and in joy and in service. All up to you. All up to us. We can all do it together. That's why we're here. That's why we have this community, so that we're lifting each other up. And each one of you certainly did lift me up tonight and every night. So thank you. Let's see. Elise says, appreciate you all. And Destiny says, thanks, Eric. We'll see you in the chat later. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Much love. You too, my friend. Elise says, feel the same way about you. And Noble says, I hope all is well. Same with you, my friend. And I look forward. I hope to catch you live tomorrow. And Eric Lapointe says, good night, my friend. Good night, Eric. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care, guys.